Okay, so we've got that part taken care of. That's basically parenting to a null. And like I said, the advantages are many. The biggest one is you can have multiple objects. With one set of tracking data, you can have multiple objects all following the same kind of information, just like we've got here. All right, so what we want to do now, I'm going to come into this eye patch a little bit. And you notice that what I gave you was a really snaggy kind of mat on here. It's all jaggy, even though I'm blown up 200%. By the way, if you want to know what it really looks like if you were to take this and put it on a TV set or movie theater, movie screen or whatever, you always want to look at it down here where it says 200%. 100% is pixel for pixel. That means it's not making up pixels to make it 200%, which is what happens. It interpolates and basically creates an extra pixel between each of them to double the size. If you go down to 50% or 25%, it's actually throwing pixels out to make the picture smaller. So you have to go to 100%, and that is at 100%, and it's the same for Photoshop or any other Nuke, any other application. At 100% or 1-to-1, what you see is what you're going to see on the TV set if that's the target product. If you're shooting on a movie screen, for movies, if you put it up on a projector, 100% is what people will see in the movie theater. Anything else, you might see extra jagginess that actually isn't there, or I've run into cases when the image, especially CG stuff, 3D with shadows, soft shadows and stuff, if it's at 50% or scaled to just fit on your computer screen, when it plays back, there'll be all sorts of flickering, and if you look at it at 100%, the flickering goes away. I spent a whole day troubleshooting that, and at the end of the day found out, oh, it actually wasn't in there. It was just a display issue. So anyway, be aware that actually this 50%, the magnification actually does have a meaning as far as what you see at home. So 100% and full resolution, this would represent what you would see on the TV set at home. Just be aware of that. All right, so the next thing we've got this sort of snaggy cutout here, and I want to go fix some of that. So I'm going to pick the eye patch layer, and there's a really cool tool up here under Effects, Matte, called Refine Matte. And if you click on that, it actually is going to magically make your eye patch look a lot better just with the default settings. But the Refine Matte actually puts in several different tools under one interface. The biggest one, like Feather, just like I was doing with the matte, Feather is blurring the edge, and it's blurring it, instead of in pixels, it's blurring it in percentages, so it's a 20%. The choke, what a choke actually is kind of, it's about the same as the expand and the expand matte or contract matte. It's actually going to eat away. If I bring this, see how there, or if I start pulling the choke in, it's eating away at the edges. It's another word for contracting the edge of the matte. But now if I come in here and start looking at the pixels at the edge of the eyepiece, there's my feather. I'll leave that one at 20%. And then come down to the choke. See how if I come out, it's actually revealing more pixels that were, and then the black past the edge of the alpha channel, the mask. But if I bring this in a little bit, it's getting rid of all those stray white edges. And if I keep going, that's what a choke does. It eats away at the edge. So just pull that 27 like that. And we've automatically got a much nicer looking edge here. It's not quite so snaggy as it was before. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. A couple other little tools just to pull these out. I've got these white pixels that I want to get rid of here. And a quick way to do that is actually just to clone them out. So what I'm going to do is actually the rubber stamp tool. Like I said, if you're familiar with Photoshop, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to click on that. And let's see, what do I want to do? Actually, with this guy, I want to come over to my layer. Actually, just double click on the eye patch. So we got that in a layer. Actually, maybe I'll just do it in the comp. Alright, we got that, and what I want to do, constant, aligned, offset, and with the rubber stamp, there we go. It's showing me the edge here. What did I do last night? No, it's all to create the offset, and it's control to change the size. There we go. That's once you click down, then it was like it was throwing me because I was seeing the refined. Once you click down, then it gives it to you. So let me come over to this side here, like so. So if you hold the Alt key down, it gives this icon, and it's basically telling you where it's going to pick the pixels up from. And then when you let go, and then you see that's where it's picking those pixels up from over here. If you needed to, you can come in, come in from a different direction, and it's going to pick them up from over here, make them a little bit darker. But what happens is you're creating an offset, and when you click down, that little plus is where it's picking the information up from, and inside your brush is where it's putting it down, like so. You also want to be on the first frame when you do this, because it will create a paint stroke, and by default we're now looking at the paint interface, which I was going to go over a little bit more on Friday. But the duration being constant means that it's going to start the duration at the frame that you're sitting on, and then it's going to last the rest of the timeline. So for this kind of thing, I just start on frame 1, and it gives me the duration of the paint stroke. You can also set this up to do single frame, which is the other way of getting rid of those tracking markers relatively quickly. And you can also, on your channels, you can just paint on your alpha channel or on your RGB or on RGBA. But anyway, so that now that I've cloned those guys out, if I come back over to my composition, see I don't have those anymore. They're gone. So you just get rid of that. That makes sense? Okay. Then if you've got if you end up doing it and you have a million paint strokes, under your layer, under the effects, here's my refined matte. There's going to be, once you do this, there's going to be a paint like folder, and that's opening up and showing you all your paint strokes. You can just close that up and get out of that. So we've just sort of cleaned up still wanted to keep the highlight, but we cleaned up the eye patch so it's not quite so snaggy looking, and got rid of a couple extra white dots that were in there. Then maybe lastly, you might want to put a drop shadow on this. I'm going to show you just so you know how they do that, and then you can decide whether it makes sense for you or not. So I'm going to take the eye patch here and come up under effects, and let's see, that one's under perspective, drop shadow. And you see it's going to just put an automatic hard edge drop shadow here, and it gives you the little interface. The distance in pixels, so if I go 10 pixels, now I've got the offset down like this. And if I come in so I can see what I'm doing, this guy determines where the drop shadow is, like so. I'm guessing since the highlights, we'll just say since the highlight's coming up here, that the shadow is going to be somewhere down along in here somewhere. And then you got the distance, and you also got the softness, so you can blur it out, because you really don't want something like that. It's pretty 80s looking, and you just soften it out so it's real subtle, but it's there. And then you can decide, you know, how far out it goes, like so. And then the softness. If for whatever reason you needed the shadow by itself, rendering it out to be used as an element somewhere else, you can say shadow only. And yes, he probably went to the bar last night. Yeah, and you could crop that, you know. Quick way of giving, you know, make another copy, mirror it, and give him raccoon eyes or something. But anyway, so you can render out with the shadow only. You can change the density of the shadow, like so. Make it darker, lighter. Defaults to 50%. So base, and then if you needed to change the color for whatever reason, you know, because you had colored lights and you wanted to put the opposite color that the shadow would be, which is how that works. Put that there. You can change the color of the shadow, like so. Basic drop shadow, nothing spectacular. Let's see, softness, make it more soft, like so. There's something subtle. And then we're just going to cache it. Little tricks, little things you can use to build up an a shot. It's effect. It's under effect, perspective, drop shadow. And then it'll pop up under your paint layers here, and just play around with it. See how the tools work. Okay. And if I stop this guy, if you click off of it so you don't see that, I'll just hit 0 again. And stop this, go back to the first frame. By the way, if you didn't get it, home takes you to the first frame of your timeline, end takes you to the end of your timeline, and page up and page down is frame forward and frame backwards. But if you're coming more from an editorial background and you're used to the 4 arrows, up, down, left, right, jogging you across your timeline, you can also hold Control and then left arrow, right arrow. But you do have to hold the Control for that. So it's 2 places to do the same thing. And also, if you just hold the arrow down, it'll just scrub along the timeline for you. Back like that. Little hotkeys. And then if you hit home again, it'll take you back to your first frame. And I'm just going to hit 0 and play it. So now if you want to go find an outdoor, like an ocean scene or something, and stick it in the background, feel free. Just little tips and tricks. Okay. Any questions? No? All right. I'm going to stop the video.